In 1987, John Cage composed a piece titled As Slow as Possible, acronym ASLEEP. A typical piano performance of the work lasts 20 to 70 minutes, but he didn't specify a tempo, just as slow as possible. A conference of musicians and philosophers decided to take Cage literally and started a project to play that piece on an organ over a period of 639 years. Not minutes or hours or days or months, 639 years. The performance commenced in the St. Burchardi Church on September 5th, 2001, with a 17-month rest, followed by the first chord, lasting 29 months. The most recent note change occurred on October 5th, 2013, and the next change won't happen until 2020, with the performance expected to conclude in 2640. I'm confident none of us will be here to hear that last note. Suffice it to say, this is not the usual interpretation of as slow as possible, nor is slowly an instruction we receive very often. Our pace of life is fast, far faster than the natural rhythms of our planet. Cars and planes transport us between places at enormous speeds, and we've adjusted so much to those speeds that we can be impatient, even at high speed, or at least I can. Are we there yet? And when we fear the depletion of one resource, such as oil, we doggedly look for alternatives that will provide equal amounts of energy. Even our goal of a healthy and sustainable world is someplace we need to get to and get there as fast as possible. Our society and technology not only allow but seemingly compel this pace from us. Busyness is assumed. Working people are busy, parents are busy, retirees are busy, children are busy, church folk are busy, rushing between all of our activities and commitments. We don't rest anymore when it's cold and dark. Our ancestors would have slept longer nights in winter, relaxing after sundown. Now we have fluorescent lights and backlit screens to make our time more useful and productive. Or potentially destructive if, like me, you've ever found yourself wasting hours near bedtime browsing the internet. Am I the only one? No. We've evened out the cycles of days and years to be as consistent as possible, removing cycles of rest and renewal from our lives. And people who aren't busy are often left out. We reinforce this for one another in work environments. We don't want to be the unproductive ones. As parents, we don't want to give our children fewer opportunities. In order to afford housing and food and other basic necessities of life, we become part of the global economy in some form. We define dignity by productivity, and being constantly busy can be an expression of status. It means we have important things to do. Some of the people I know who live on social assistance get this message loud and clear. They know they are less valued by many in this society with less to do. If we step outside these systems as individuals, we suffer the consequences, and it would take a critical mass of people challenging the busy system we have to create a new balance. I've always been someone who takes on a lot, balancing work or school with volunteering, sitting on boards, multiple sports teams, and I've been known to go from my soccer game to ultimate right after, or vice versa. Yoga, running, guitar lessons, time with friends and family, and more. When confronted with wait times, such as at a bus stop, I've been known to walk or run to the next stop, preferring to keep moving than to be still, even if the bus is coming in 3 minutes. To be fair to myself, I do find stillness much more meaningful and accessible sitting by water than by standing at a bus stop corner of a busy intersection breathing in car exhaust. Nevertheless, when my loved ones would gently suggest that perhaps I was overtired and doing too many things, I would always counter that I love my activities and I'm happier on the go. Our congregations are often the same, places of busyness and sometimes burnout. I notice that as Unitarian Universalists, we often talk about our abundant programs and events as evidence of our vibrancy. Our weekly or monthly newsletters are filled with more things to do than most of us can even manage to think about, let alone attend. And yet I wonder, are we confusing activity with depth? Are our congregations called to replicate our culture or to offer an alternative, a haven or sanctuary from the rest of our hectic lives? Earth time is slower. Joanna Macy says both the progressive destruction of our world and our capacity to slow down and stop that destruction can be understood as a function of our experience of time. It can be likened to an ever-shrinking box in which we race on a treadmill at increasingly frenetic speeds, cutting us off from other rhythms of life. This box cuts us off from the past and the future as well. By opening up our experience of time in organic, ecological, and even geologic terms and revitalizing our relationship with other species, other eras, we can allow life to continue on Earth. By a combination of circumstance and choice, I've been experimenting with a slower pace of life over the last 2 years. Living first in Calgary and then in Montreal for Curtis's last year of seminary, without many of my regular activities from home, and now working half-time, life has been much slower. It was hard for my neighbor to comprehend slower. She kept saying, "Oh, you must be so busy," and I said, "No." "Oh, but you must be so busy," I said, "No." Third time in the conversation, "Really? No." Curtis and I have cooked more meals at home. We've given up our car and biked and walked instead of driving, though I did not bike here from Hamilton this morning. We've spent more hours reading, chatting, and throwing a frisbee and realized that it never got boring. It was just as fun to throw, catch, run after errant frisbee, repeat day after day. When in Calgary and Montreal, I enjoyed the slower pace, but I also missed many of my activities from home and relationships with friends and family. And I wondered, would I be able to maintain my commitment to a simpler, less busy life as we transitioned back to Ontario last year, especially as we thought about starting a family and a new ministry? Our results have been mixed so far. The family came a little sooner, and ministry as a result is on a little bit slower track. I have felt much spaciousness in the last year, and we've been blessed with time to intentionally prepare for and reflect on our transition to parenthood. And we've had moments, especially in the last month, of feeling that easeful pace slip away from us again, with growing to-do lists that don't seem to get done, and fewer moments of connection with ourselves, one another, our loved ones, and our spirits. Again and again, we set our attentions to return to a slower pace. You may have heard of the slow movement connecting ecological principles to food production, emphasizing local, organic, and traditional food, as well as enjoyment of food in community. There's a slow church movement too. I know it's one you've explored a little bit here. In their book, Slow Church, the authors invite faith communities to leave the fast lane of many programs and efficiency, busyness, and choose quality over quantity. More effective than programs, we need time to simply be together, to play together, to laugh and to cry together, to learn and grow together. Creating time for all of this being means saying no to some of the doing. It requires sacrifice, and just as I need to choose between my beloved activities at times, congregations may need to choose between special events and committees on one hand, and time for simple spiritual practice and relationship building on the other. But many of us aren't very good at saying no. We fear we may disappoint or inadvertently reject a person asking for our help. When we say no to a long-standing program, we worry about hurting the leaders who have worked hard to make it a success. In choosing bikes over cars, I'm conscious that others may feel unintended judgment for saying yes to driving. And then there's always the FOMO, fear of missing out. If we don't attend every event, party, tourism site, if we don't take every opportunity to learn, connect, and grow, or be where the action is. Fear that if we don't take on every cause in this hurting, reeling world of ours, we're lacking or collectively doomed. My early attempts to add no to my vocabulary began with requests for babysitting when I was a youth. I generally enjoyed it, but there was always that one family. The kids wanted to watch TV and play video games the whole evening, and I struggled to connect with them, having absolutely no video game skill whatsoever. I died in the first 5 seconds, every time. At bedtime, they simply refused to go. When I babysat my own siblings, my strategy for getting them to go to bed would be to turn it into a playful race to see who could get pajamas on fastest. And it worked every time with my siblings, as we'd spark a frantic scramble up the stairs with ever-increasing roughhousing the older we got. When I tried that with these kids, they gave me blank stares that said, "Do you think we're gonna fall for that?" I wanted to say no when this family called, but would find myself answering the question, "Are you available?" with the factually accurate yes. Finally, realizing my own automatic programming, I resorted to saying I would need to check my calendar and call back. I needed the moment, the pause, to find my voice and my respectful, hopefully gracious, but firm no. I still work hard at saying no, both to things I don't want to do and things I just simply don't have time for. When I'm tempted or pressured to say yes, I've come to recognize the feelings of anxiety and frustration that rise in me. As a usually calm person, I've learned this to be a warning sign that I'm at risk of losing my carefully cultivated but always fragile balance. And hardest of all, sometimes it means saying no to fun or meaningful activities with people I love. In church communities, we might benefit from saying no even to some very good programs. Carrie Nieuwhof, a church growth expert, cautions that good programs are the enemy of great ones, dispersing effort and attendance. If you feel too busy or at or near burnout, here in this congregation or elsewhere in your life, what would it take to lift that weight and to embrace a little bit more slowness? The best start resource a child becomes strong on journeying through the life cycle draws on wisdom from many Indigenous consultants and contributors and names the gifts of each of several life stages. Infants, they say, brings joy as we welcome new life. Toddlers, safety as they begin to explore the world in ways that need our attention and protection in moments. Children bring truth to the community, saying exactly what they mean in the moment. Youth gift the community with challenge as they question tradition and explore different ways of thinking and doing things. Young adults bring the gift of wandering as they make external and internal journeys to find themselves and their place in the world. Parents give the community the gift of providing, nurturing, and care. Grandparents gift the community with life teachings, sharing the wisdom of their experiences. And then finally, elders share their spiritual learnings and wisdom with the community. In our culture, when we're going at too fast of a pace, not only do we miss the gifts of others' life stages to our community and to our own lives, that joy of the infant or questioning of the youth, we also miss out on the gifts of our own life and stage and opportunities to embody that gift most fully in the world. Joy, safety, truth, challenge, wandering, providing, life and spiritual teachings all require time and relationship. Time to notice, time to nurture, time to be present, and time to connect. Curtis and I are seeing our soon-to-be with us in this outside world baby as an invitation to make the commitment yet again for a slower pace and make that commitment even more firmly. We know how easy it is for family life to become hectic and frenzied. One reframing of the mother mind, often defined in our culture as hormonal and sleep-deprived disconnection from the way things need to be done, can be reframed as a falling away of what is not important in favor of focus on what is, the health and well-being of children, family, and community. I've tried to remind myself of that in moments over the last few months when I've muddled simple things, mixed up emails or times. Curtis and I look forward to relearning slowness and in-the-momentness from our child and to learn from them the gifts they bring at each life stage as they grow. We know we will not do this perfectly. All the parents in the room know this. Nor will we have any other perfectly executed parenting intention. And so we will need reminders from each other, from ourselves, and from our life-wise grandparents and spiritually wise elders along the way. The sustainable agricultural system of permaculture is based on several principles. One of them is recognizing that the richest, most biodiverse ecosystems are those at the edges or meeting places between two other ecosystems. The intermixing of characteristics creates something that is not entirely one or the other, but as unusually vibrant and alive. For example, where forest ecosystem meets grassland or a river mouth meets the ocean. Coral reefs where ocean meets land are among the richest of all Earth ecosystems and the most fragile and vulnerable. So too is it vulnerable in the transition from one life stage to the next, womb to infant, infant to child, child to youth, youth to young adult to parent, parent to grandparent, grandparent to elder. Curtis will be exploring the importance of these transitions in his services here this summer. I hope that our Unitarian Universalist communities are and can become places of the edges between the calm and the hurried. I yearn for spiritual communities that offer not just a monastery refuge from the world, nor a brief hour of sanctuary to inoculate against another week of chaos, but one that offers practical tools to navigate the busyness of life, to find new ways of being. A community that helps us all slow down, build connection, and from that rooted place, work for healing in our lives and in the world. A community where social justice isn't just one more thing on the agenda, but integrated in the fabric of living life together. Environmental educator David Orr says, "The plain fact is that the planet does not need more successful people, but it does desperately need more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of every kind. It needs people who live well in their places. It needs people of moral courage willing to join in making the world more habitable and humane. And those qualities have little to do with success, as we have defined it." Like a coral reef, it is vulnerable to sit at the edge between two worlds, between calm and chaos, between success and its alternatives, between fast and slow, between yes and no. It is at the edge that spiritual transformation awaits in the vulnerable and creative possibility of the pause. A chance to find a new way, perhaps a slower way. May we have the courage to pause at the edge. Blessed be. Amen.